Welcome, dear traveler, to this quiet hour we share together. Wherever you are resting now, whatever room holds you, whatever hour the clock reveals, whatever corner of the world you call home tonight, allow yourself to arrive fully in this moment. You may gently notice the time. You may notice the place where you are listening. Let that simple awareness help you settle. Tonight, we journey together through ancient wisdom, softly passed from teacher to student across countless generations. These are not stories meant to entertain or distract. They are carefully preserved teachings from the Zen and Buddhist traditions, carried forward because of their quiet power, to calm the restless mind and open a doorway to genuine peace. Each story holds a simple insight, not something new to acquire, but something familiar to remember. These teachings gently shift the way we relate to worry, to the constant movement of thought, to the long habit of searching for safety and approval outside ourselves. What these ancient teachers understood is something most of us once knew and then forgot: that peace does not come from fixing the world around us. It is already here, waiting, patient, whole. There is an old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Perhaps tonight these stories have arrived to meet you exactly where you are. So settle now. Let your body rest into whatever supports it. Allow your breath to move in its own natural way. Take one slow breath with me, and as you exhale, notice how nothing needs to be done. Wisdom has been waiting for this moment, waiting quietly for you to arrive. Let us begin. Let us begin with a gentle teaching about the nature of perception and about the things we often mistake for reality. Long ago in Japan, there was a time when cherry blossoms covered the hillsides, spreading gently in soft waves of pink and white. In those days, there lived an empress whose heart had been devoted to Zen practice for many years. Her palace was filled with treasures gathered across generations, yet it never felt heavy with wealth. Instead, it carried a quiet simplicity. The rooms were arranged with care, the spaces left open and calm, as though everything there existed to support reflection rather than display. To enter her palace was to feel an invitation to stillness. The empress had spent decades studying with many teachers. She sat in meditation through countless dawns and dusks, patiently observing her own mind, always seeking to understand its true nature. And yet, despite her long practice, she never believed she had reached a final understanding. She remained curious, open, and quietly humble. This quality made her deeply respected by the monks and masters who visited her court. One spring, the empress commissioned a renowned artist to create a painted screen for her private meditation chamber. The artist was known throughout the land for his rare ability to capture not only the outward form of things, but their inner life as well. Understanding the empress's refined taste and the depth of her practice, he devoted himself fully to this single work. When the screen was finally unveiled, the empress was moved at once. Across panels of fine silk, the artist had painted a winter landscape. Snow-covered mountains rose toward a pale horizon, their peaks touched by the soft light of early morning. Ancient pine trees bent gently beneath their white burden, and a frozen stream wound quietly through the valley below. Yet what drew her attention most was not the mountains or the trees, but a flock of wild geese painted across the open sky. They were shown in mid-flight, their wings stretched wide, suspended among delicate clouds. Each bird appeared so alive that one could almost imagine it continuing its journey beyond the silk that held it. The Empress placed the screen in her meditation chamber where the morning light would slowly illuminate its beauty. Day after day she sat before it in silence. The painting brought her a sense of peace, and the geese became quiet companions in her practice, their endless flight whispering of freedom and movement of journeys without clear destinations. As time passed, the seasons turned. Cherry blossoms fell and returned again. The Empress continued her practice, and her fondness for the painted screen only deepened. One golden afternoon, as autumn light drifted through the palace windows, the Empress sat in quiet conversation with the revered Zen master Hogan. He was an elderly teacher known for insight that was both sharp and gentle. He spoke little, yet his words often touched the heart of a question, more clearly than long explanations ever could. Their conversation wandered calmly through the teachings of the Buddha. They spoke of suffering, of liberation, and of the subtle relationship between form and emptiness. After a long and comfortable silence, the Empress turned her gaze once more toward the painted screen. The geese glowed softly in the afternoon light, forever caught in their silent flight. "Master," she said at last, "this painting brings me great peace, and yet something about it troubles me. These geese seem so alive, so real, that I sometimes forget they are only painted silk." She paused, then continued, "Where do they go when I am no longer looking at them? Where do they fly when my eyes close in meditation?" Her question was gentle, but it carried great depth. It was not truly about the painting, but about perception itself. It was a question about where things exist and whether they possess any reality beyond our awareness of them. Master Hogan listened without rushing to respond. He sat quietly, breathing slowly, allowing the question to settle into the space between them. Then, without explanation, he raised his hands and brought them together in a single clap. The sound filled the room for an instant, sharp and clear, and then it vanished completely. Startled, the Empress felt her thoughts stop all at once. In that brief moment, there were no painted geese, no questions, no palace, and no conversation. There was only sound arising and disappearing. "You see," Master Hogan said softly, "they have already flown away." In that instant, understanding opened within the Empress. She saw that the geese had never truly existed in the way she had imagined. Just like the sound of the clap, they appeared only when conditions came together and vanished when those conditions dissolved. This was the nature of all experience. Thoughts arise and pass away. Feelings bloom and fade. Even the sense of self appears and disappears moment by moment. Nothing remains fixed or solid in the way the mind assumes. Tonight, as thoughts move gently through your awareness, you might notice them in the same way. Like sounds that arise and fade, like painted birds that never truly fly, they come and go on their own. And in noticing this, you may discover a quiet peace that has always been present, waiting beneath the habit of grasping. Our next story points to what appears when the thinking mind reaches its furthest edge and quietly discovers that freedom cannot be reached by thinking alone. Long ago, in a monastery hidden among tall bamboo groves, the days moved with a gentle, unhurried rhythm. Morning mist drifted softly through the trees, and the sound of meditation bells marked the passing of time. In this place, lived the Zen master Kyogen, a teacher known for challenging his students in ways they did not expect. Unlike other masters who offered long explanations or encouraged endless study of sacred texts, Kyogen preferred a different approach. Rather than feeding the intellect, he placed his students in situations where thinking itself would eventually fall silent. He presented questions that could not be solved through logic puzzles that exhausted the analytical mind and opened the door to direct insight. These teachings were known as koans. They were not riddles with clever answers hidden inside them. They were designed to push awareness beyond habitual patterns of either-or thinking, revealing the limits of concepts and pointing toward another way of knowing altogether. One morning, as the monks gathered in the meditation hall for their daily teaching, the atmosphere carried a quiet alertness. Autumn light filtered through the paper screens, casting soft shadows across the wooden floor. The monks sat in orderly rows. Their robes carefully arranged their attention, resting fully on their teacher. Master Kyogen entered the hall and took his seat on the simple platform at the front. His hair had grown white and his body bore the marks of many years of practice. Yet his presence felt alive and playful. There was something in his gaze that suggested he knew how easily the deepest truths could appear in unexpected forms. "I would like you to imagine something." Kyogen began, his voice calm and steady. "Picture a man who finds himself in a most unusual situation. He is hanging from a high tree branch, but not in any ordinary way." The monks listened closely as the image formed in their minds. "This man is suspended by his teeth alone," Kyogen continued. "His hands cannot reach another branch. They hang uselessly at his sides. His feet do not touch the ground, nor can they find any support. He is held there only by the strength of his jaw, knowing that if he loosens his grip, even for a moment, he will fall to his death below." A quiet tension moved through the hall. The monks could feel the strain in the man's body, the weight pulling him downward, the awareness that he hung between life and death with no escape. Now Kyogen went on. "Imagine that while this man hangs there, a traveler happens to pass beneath the tree. The traveler looks up, sees the man above him, and decides to ask a question." Kyogen paused, letting the moment settle. "And this is no ordinary question," he said. "The traveler asks the most important question in Zen. He calls out, 'What is the meaning of Bodhidharma coming from the West?'" The monks understood at once. This was a question about the very heart of Zen practice. It asked why Bodhidharma had traveled from India to China, what truth he carried, and what awakening itself truly meant. Kyogen's voice grew more serious. "If the man does not answer," he said, "he fails in his duty as a student of the Buddha's way. A sincere seeker has asked a profound question, and to remain silent would be to abandon the Dharma." He let this sink in before continuing. "But if the man opens his mouth to speak even a single word, he will lose his grip and fall to his death." The hall fell completely silent. The monks sat still, their minds caught in the dilemma. There was no clever solution, no hidden path of escape. Silence meant spiritual failure. Speaking meant death. Every choice led to loss. At this moment, Kyogen asked quietly, "What should the man do?" Time passed without an answer. Some monks strained to reason their way through the problem. Others felt only confusion, sensing that their usual tools of thought were useless here. A few began to suspect that the koan was pointing beyond choice itself, towards something that could not be grasped by deciding. At last, a young monk raised his hand. "Master," he said, "perhaps the man could signal with his eyes or nod his head without opening his mouth." Kyogen shook his head gently. "The Dharma must be spoken clearly. Gestures are not enough." Another monk suggested writing the answer in the dirt below. Again, Kyogen refused. "The question deserves a direct response," he said. Indirect answers missed the point. One by one, more suggestions were offered, each more creative than the last, and each was met with the same quiet refusal. Slowly, something deeper began to settle among the monks. They saw that this was not a problem to be solved by intelligence or ingenuity. The teaching revealed something fundamental about the human mind. We are deeply attached to dualistic thinking, to the belief that every situation must be resolved by choosing between opposing options. In daily life, we hang like that man from the branch, caught between impossible choices. Career or family, speaking truth or keeping peace, holding on or letting go. The resolution does not come from choosing correctly. It comes from discovering the awareness that exists before any choice is made. In Zen, this is sometimes called don't know mind. In that open awareness, response arises naturally without struggle or paralysis. Tonight, when you find yourself caught between opposing paths, you might gently sense that deeper ground within you, the place that holds all choices without being trapped by any of them. As we continue our journey together, let us turn toward a teaching about the quiet transformation from knowledge to lived experience and the humbling moment when a lifetime of learning meets simple, everyday wisdom. Long ago in medieval China, there was a time when Buddhist scholarship flourished in great monasteries. Learned monks devoted their lives to sacred texts, believing that careful study was the highest path to understanding. Among them lived a brilliant scholar named Tokusan. From his earliest years in the monastery, Tokusan showed extraordinary intellectual gifts. His memory was sharp, his reasoning precise, and his dedication to study unwavering. While others struggled with complex passages, Tokusan absorbed them with ease, moving confidently through layers of doctrine and interpretation. He chose as his life's work the Diamond Sutra, one of Buddhism's most subtle and demanding teachings. It spoke of emptiness, of the insubstantial nature of all things, and of freedom that comes from releasing fixed views. For more than 30 years, Tokusan immersed himself in this text. He memorized not only its words, but countless commentaries written by masters across generations. His small monastery room slowly filled with scrolls and manuscripts. Every surface held writing his own detailed explanations, careful annotations and debates with long-dead scholars. In time, his reputation spread. Students came to learn from him, and other scholars sought him out to test their understanding against his. Tokusan took pride in his mastery. When he lectured, words flowed effortlessly. When challenged, he responded with quotations drawn from memory, precise and unshakable. In his own mind, he believed he had reached the heart of the Buddha's wisdom through study alone. Then rumors reached his monastery. In the southern regions of China, a different form of Buddhism was spreading. Zen teachers spoke of awakening through direct experience rather than scripture. They claimed that true understanding passed from mind to mind beyond words and texts. Some even suggested that too much study could become an obstacle. To Tokusan, this was deeply troubling. How could anyone understand the Buddha's teaching without mastering the sutras that preserved it? To him, these ideas sounded careless, even dangerous. "I will travel south," Tokusan declared, "and show the errors of this so-called Zen. These monks may be sincere, but they are mistaken. Enlightenment cannot come without deep study." He gathered his most important writings, packing years of Diamond Sutra commentaries into a large bundle. The weight bent his back as he walked, but he carried it with pride. These texts were proof of his authority, the foundation of his identity, and the tools he believed would expose false teaching. The journey was long. He walked through mountains and valleys, across open plains, under the wide sky. Days turned into weeks. His body grew tired, but his resolve remained firm. He believed he was protecting the true Dharma. One hot afternoon, worn down by hunger and heat, Tokusan noticed a small roadside stall. An elderly woman sat beneath a simple thatched roof preparing food for travelers. The scent of fresh rice cakes drifted through the air. Tokusan set down his heavy bundle and rested. His robes were dusty, his sandals thin, but his posture still carried the dignity of a respected scholar. The old woman looked up, her eyes gentle yet clear, as though they had learned to see beyond appearances. "Venerable sir," she said, "you look weary. What brings you so far from home carrying such a heavy load?" Tokusan straightened slightly and gestured toward his bundle. "These are my commentaries on the Diamond Sutra," he said. "I have spent over 30 years studying this sacred text. I am traveling south to correct those who misunderstand the teaching." The woman nodded slowly. "The Diamond Sutra," she said. "That is not an easy teaching. Many read it, but few truly understand it." Tokusan felt pleased. "That is true," he replied. "It takes many years of careful study." The woman paused, then spoke again. "Perhaps you can help this old woman understand something." Tokusan smiled, already preparing an explanation. "Of course." She looked at him steadily. "The Diamond Sutra says that the past mind cannot be grasped, the present mind cannot be grasped, and the future mind cannot be grasped. All minds are empty." She let the words rest between them. "Tell me, venerable scholar," she continued softly, "if this is so, then which mind will you use to enjoy the rice cakes I am selling?" Tokusan froze. The words struck him without warning. He knew the passage well. He had written pages analyzing it. Yet standing there on the dusty road with hunger in his body and rice cakes before him, he found himself unable to answer. His mind searched desperately through years of learning, but nothing came. No quotation, no argument, no explanation. His knowledge, so powerful in the monastery, failed him completely in this simple moment. For the first time, Tokusan stood silent, a great scholar rendered speechless by a single, ordinary question. In that silence, something shifted. His certainty collapsed, and in its place, a new possibility quietly appeared. Not an answer, but the beginning of understanding. The encounter with the old woman shattered something deep within Tokusan. What broke was not simply his confidence, but the image he held of himself and the path he believed he was walking. He did not continue his journey south to debate the Zen teachers. Instead, confused and humbled, he turned toward a nearby mountain monastery, where a Zen master named Ryutan was known for guiding students toward direct awakening. When Tokusan arrived at Ryutan's simple temple, he was no longer the proud scholar who had set out from his home monastery. A single question from an old tea seller had pierced the certainty built over decades of study. If his vast learning could not answer something so immediate and ordinary, he began to wonder what that learning truly amounted to. Ryutan accepted him without ceremony. There was no recognition of Tokusan's reputation, no acknowledgement of his scholarly achievements. Here he was simply another seeker, perhaps even more burdened than most, weighed down by years of accumulated knowledge, but no further along on the path that mattered. Tokusan's precious manuscripts, the Diamond Sutra commentaries he had carried so carefully across mountains, now sat untouched in the corner of his small room. Days turned into months. He followed the rhythm of monastic life, sitting in meditation for long hours, his legs aching, his mind swinging between restless thought and dull stillness. He worked alongside the other monks, chopping wood, carrying water, sweeping the courtyards. Tasks that once would have seemed beneath his dignity now filled his days. He performed them earnestly, yet inwardly, he struggled. Despite his effort, the insight he now knew he lacked remained out of reach. His scholarly mind continued to interfere. He analyzed each meditation session, compared his experience to descriptions he remembered from texts, measured himself against imagined stages of progress. The harder he tried to grasp understanding, the more it slipped away like water clenched in a fist. Ryutan observed all of this quietly. He offered little instruction. Sometimes he made a simple remark about the weather or asked an ordinary question, but nothing Tokusan could seize upon as the teaching. For someone accustomed to learning through words and concepts, this silence was deeply frustrating. One evening, after a particularly difficult day of meditation, Tokusan sought out Ryutan. They sat together in the master's spare room as night settled over the mountains. A single candle burned between them, its flame casting warm, shifting shadows on the paper walls. Their conversation drifted through ordinary matters. They spoke of the changing season, of an elderly monk whose health was failing, of teachers they had known in years past. Beneath Tokusan's calm words lay a quiet despair. He had abandoned his status, his reputation, and his life's work, yet felt no closer to understanding than before. Ryutan listened fully, neither confronting Tokusan's frustration, nor turning away from it. At last he glanced toward the window, where darkness had completely claimed the landscape. "It has grown late," he said gently. "You should return to your quarters and rest. Tomorrow we'll need whatever energy you have." Tokusan bowed and rose to leave. As he slid open the door, he stopped. Outside was a moonless night, so dark he could not see his own hand, let alone the path across the temple grounds. "Master," he said, turning back, "it is completely dark. I cannot see the way to my room." Without a word, Ryutan reached for another candle. He lit it from the flame between them and held it out toward Tokusan. The small light flickered warmly, offering guidance, safety, a way forward. Tokusan felt genuine relief. At last, something tangible was being given. He reached out to take the candle, and at the exact moment his fingers were about to close around it, Ryutan leaned forward and blew out the flame. Darkness, sudden and complete. In that instant, something extraordinary happened. All of Tokusan's striving vanished. His longing for enlightenment, his frustration, his hope that the master would finally give him what he needed. All of it disappeared as effortlessly as the flame itself. What vanished was not only the light, What vanished was the seeker, the man who had spent years pursuing understanding, the scholar who had carried his knowledge across mountains, the one standing in the doorway believing he lacked something essential. None of it remained. And what was left? Nothing that could be named. Nothing that could be grasped. No insight to claim, no experience to store away. Only this moment, complete and immediate. No past to refer to, no future to anticipate, no observer standing apart. Just presence itself, awake and whole. The darkness that had seemed like an obstacle revealed itself as freedom. With nothing to see, there was nothing to hold. With no path visible, there was nowhere to go. With nothing left to understand. The grasping mind released its grip entirely. Tokusan stood there for an unmeasured time. When he finally moved, it was not the same man who had reached for the candle. That man, with his ambitions and his burden of knowledge, had gone out with the flame. The next morning, Tokusan gathered his manuscripts and burned them in the monastery courtyard. 30 years of scholarship turned to ash. When asked why he would destroy such valuable work, he replied simply, "All our elaborate explanations are like a single hair placed against the vastness of the sky." The candle Ryutan extinguished represents everything we believe we need in order to awaken. All our seeking, planning, striving, and spiritual ambition. When these fall away, what remains is the awareness that was never truly hidden. Tonight, perhaps you can sense what might remain if your own seeking were to stop, not through effort, but through the simple grace of being present with what is. Let us now turn to a story about patience, presence, and a quiet paradox at the heart of all true mastery. The discovery that the harder we grasp for achievement, the further it slips away. Long ago in feudal Japan, there was a time when the way of the sword was more than a martial skill. It was considered a spiritual path, a discipline meant to shape the whole person. In those days lived a young man named Matajuro Yagyu. His family name was known throughout the land. Matajuro's father was regarded as one of the greatest swordsmen of his generation, a master whose techniques were studied by warriors from many provinces. To be born into such a family was a great honor, and many assumed the son would naturally inherit his father's skill. But Matajuro did not. Despite years of training, his movements remained awkward. Where others moved with ease, he hesitated. Where they sensed timing instinctively, he was always a step too late. During practice, his mind wandered, pulled away by doubt, effort, and the constant pressure to succeed. Year after year, his father trained him patiently, hoping that discipline might replace talent. But over time, disappointment quietly settled between them. After one particularly discouraging training session, his father finally spoke. "My son," he said, not in anger but with deep sadness, "I have taught you everything I know. Yet your sword is still clumsy and your spirit remains unsettled. I can no longer call you my heir. You must leave this house and find your own path." The words struck Matajuro deeply. To be dismissed by his own father was a profound shame. Yet beneath the pain, a fierce resolve began to rise. He would not accept failure as his fate. He would prove himself worthy, even if it meant finding a teacher greater than his father. Matajuro had heard stories of a legendary master named Banzo, who lived far to the north in the mountains. It was said that Banzo accepted very few students, and those who trained under him emerged years later as swordsmen of remarkable depth. With little more than determination, Matajuro set out on the long journey. He crossed mountains and rivers, walking paths that grew narrower and quieter as civilization faded behind him. When he finally reached Banzo's dwelling, he found a simple hut beside a clear stream. Banzo himself moved with calm precision. Even in ordinary actions, there was no wasted motion. He chopped wood, prepared food, and walked with a presence that felt complete. Matajuro sensed at once that this man embodied everything he hoped to become. He bowed deeply. "Master," he said, "I have traveled far to find you. My father has disowned me for my lack of skill, but I am determined to learn. I beg you to accept me as your student." Banzo studied him quietly. His gaze seemed to look beyond appearance into motivation and habit, into the hidden tension carried in the young man's body and mind. "You wish to learn the sword," Banzo said at last. "I will be honest. You lack the natural ease that makes learning quick. Your body strains, your mind grasps. These patterns are deeply rooted." "I understand," Matajuro replied. "But if I devote myself completely, if I work harder than anyone you have taught, how long would it take?" Banzo reflected. "With your present condition, it would take the rest of your life." Matajuro's heart sank, but he persisted. "If I serve you fully, attending to all your needs while training, then perhaps 10 years. 10 years is still long," Matajuro said. "If I train with even greater intensity, practicing day and night, could the time be shortened?" Banzo smiled gently. "If you train with such urgency, it would take at least 30 years. Matajuro was stunned. "Master, how can that be? Why does greater effort increase the time?" Banzo answered patiently. "A person in a hurry to achieve has already lost the way. Your urgency creates tension. Your grasping blocks learning. Impatience is not dedication. It is the greatest obstacle to mastery." Something in these words reached Matajuro deeply. For the first time, he saw that his desperation to succeed had been the source of his failure. "I accept," he said quietly. "I will stay as long as necessary without concern for time or outcome." Banzo nodded. Then he gave his first instruction. "You are not to practice swordsmanship," he said. "You are not to speak of it, think about it, or touch a sword. Your duties are simple. You will cook, clean, tend the garden, chop wood, and carry water." For 3 years, Matajuro lived this way. He served his teacher, performing ordinary tasks day after day. His hands hardened from work. His restless mind slowly settled into the rhythm of simple activity. Thoughts of mastery faded, replaced by attention to what was directly in front of him. Then, one afternoon, while Matajuro stood behind the house washing dishes, fully absorbed in the warmth of the water, the smoothness of the bowls, and the quiet rhythm of his breath, Banzo appeared silently behind him. Without warning, he struck Matajuro across the shoulders with a wooden sword. In that moment, his real training began. The blow came suddenly. It was swift, sharp, and painful. Before Matajuro could react, before his mind could even form a thought, Master Banzo had already disappeared into the forest surrounding the small dwelling. Matajuro stood still, the dish he had been washing frozen in his hands. His shoulders throbbed where the wooden sword had struck. Confusion rushed in. Was this punishment for some unseen failure, a test he had not understood? His thoughts searched for meaning, but nothing settled. That evening, Banzo behaved as if nothing had happened. He ate quietly, thanked Matajuro for the meal, and returned to his meditation. Matajuro was left alone with the ache in his body and the unanswered questions in his mind. The next day passed in silence, and the next. Slowly, Matajuro began to believe the strike had been a single lesson, meant only to awaken his alertness. Then 3 days later, as he knelt in the garden, pulling weeds fully absorbed in the feel of roots breaking free from the soil, another blow fell across his back. Once again, before he could turn, Banzo was gone. From that moment on, Matajuro's life changed completely. Without warning, at any hour, Banzo would appear and strike. It happened while Matajuro cooked, while he cleaned, while he carried water, while he chopped wood. It happened in early morning darkness and in the quiet of evening, sometimes twice within a short span, sometimes not again for days. There was no pattern, no rhythm, no way to predict it. Matajuro quickly learned that trying to anticipate the attacks was useless. Banzo struck precisely when his attention softened, when his awareness drifted even slightly. Every gap was met immediately. At first, Matajuro responded as he always had, by thinking. He analyzed timing, he searched for clues, he tried to notice habits and form strategies. He watched shadows and listened for footsteps. Nothing worked. The strikes did not follow any pattern his mind could grasp. They arose from something else entirely, from the quality of his presence in each moment. Gradually, without any clear decision, Matajuro stopped trying to think his way to safety. The repeated failure of analysis forced another kind of learning. His body began to understand what his mind could not. He learned to sleep lightly with awareness, never fully withdrawn. He learned to eat without disappearing into the act of eating. He learned to work while remaining open to everything around him, focused yet spacious. Months passed, then years. His body learned to respond before thought arose. A subtle shift in air, a faint sound, even the texture of silence itself became something he could feel. Fear slowly dissolved into steadiness. Anxiety softened into alert calm. Most importantly, his mind stopped racing toward what might happen next. It settled into what was happening now. One morning, after years of this training, Matajuro was sweeping the courtyard. His movements were simple and unhurried. He was fully present with the broom in his hands and the ground beneath his feet. Then, without effort or planning, he sensed Banzo behind him. Before a thought could form, his body moved. He stepped aside naturally at exactly the right moment. The wooden sword passed through empty air. It was the first time he had avoided a strike. Banzo lowered the sword and looked at him. In his expression was not approval, but recognition. The student who had arrived grasping and desperate was no longer there. "Do you understand now," Banzo asked quietly, "why I forbade you from touching a sword?" Matajuro bowed deeply. He did understand. Not as an idea, but as lived truth. The years of washing dishes, sweeping floors, and tending the garden had not delayed his training. They had been the training. By learning to be fully present in ordinary tasks, he had cultivated the awareness that true swordsmanship required. The sword itself was secondary. What mattered was the mind that held it. Through this way, Matajuro Yagyu eventually became one of the most respected swordsmen in Japan. His influence spread across generations, yet those who studied with him learned that his deepest teaching was not about technique. It was about presence. Tonight, as your own mind drifts toward tomorrow or lingers in yesterday, you might remember Matajuro's journey. Genuine mastery does not arise from effort alone, but from attention, from being fully here with what is. Whatever you are learning, patience, understanding, or skill, trust that it unfolds naturally when presence is complete. The path is not separate from the goal. Allow yourself now to release any urgency about progress. Rest in this moment, just as it is, needing nothing more than your gentle awareness. Now let us turn to a story about learning to recognize the difference between what appears impressive and what is truly liberating. Long ago, in a remote region of Tibet, there was a monastery built high into the side of a steep mountain. Prayer flags fluttered endlessly against snow-covered peaks, and the path leading upward was so narrow and dangerous that most visitors needed an entire day to climb it. The isolation of the place seemed to reflect the intensity of the lives lived there. The monks of this community were known throughout the land for their extreme dedication. Many spent years at a time in silent retreat, sealed in small caves with little more than simple food and water. They practiced demanding forms of meditation, precise breathing disciplines, and intricate visualizations passed down through generations. Their days began before dawn and ended late at night, shaped entirely around transformation of body and mind. Over many decades, some among them had developed extraordinary abilities. One elderly monk had become well known for his capacity to walk across water as easily as others crossed dry ground. Another could rise several feet into the air during deep meditation, remaining suspended for long periods of time. A third had mastered such intense inner heat that he could sit calmly in falling snow, melting the ground around him while remaining perfectly at ease. News of these feats spread far beyond the mountains. Pilgrims traveled great distances to witness such wonders. Some came out of curiosity. Others secretly hoped to acquire such powers themselves. The monastery became a place people spoke of with awe. When word of this community reached a humble Zen master living in a distant valley, he felt a quiet curiosity. He was not drawn by spectacle, nor by the desire for power. What interested him was something simpler, what these abilities had to do with awakening itself. The journey took him many days. He crossed mountain passes still holding winter snow, walked through wide plateaus where the air grew thin, and followed narrow paths through landscapes of stark beauty. When he finally reached the base of the mountain where the monastery stood above him, he paused to rest. In a small village nearby, he encountered an old ferryman. The man operated a simple wooden boat, carrying travelers across a wide, fast-moving river fed by melting glaciers. The water was bitterly cold and dangerously swift. For a single small coin, the ferryman guided people safely to the other shore. The Zen master took note of this, then continued his climb to the monastery. The monks welcomed him, warmly honored by the visit of a teacher whose reputation had reached even their remote home. After days of quiet conversation and shared practice, they offered to demonstrate the fruits of their long training. They brought him to the river. The monk, known for walking on water, stepped forward. His face was calm, his posture steady. With measured steps, he walked out onto the rushing surface. Where there should have been only turbulence, his feet found support. He crossed the river with ease, turned and returned the same way, his robes untouched by water. When he finished, the monks looked toward the visiting master, expecting amazement. The Zen master watched quietly. Then he spoke with gentle sincerity. "That is a remarkable ability. It must have required many years of dedication. May I ask how long it took you to develop this skill?" The monk answered with quiet pride. 20 years of disciplined practice. The master nodded slowly. 20 years is a great portion of a human life. Such commitment is not small. Then he reached into his traveling pouch and brought out a small, worn coin, holding it up in the sunlight. "When I passed through the village below," he said softly, "I met an old ferryman. For this single coin, he carries anyone across this same river in a few minutes. He has done so for many years, helping countless travelers reach the other side safely." A stillness settled over the gathering. "I find myself wondering," the Zen master continued, his voice calm and without judgment, "about the difference between developing remarkable abilities and cultivating true freedom. Both require effort, but perhaps they lead to very different places." He said nothing more. The river continued to rush past them, indifferent and unchanged, carrying all reflections on its surface and letting none remain. A quiet stillness settled over the mountainside as the master's words came to rest. The river continued its steady rushing below, indifferent to questions of achievement or attainment. The monk who had walked upon the water stood motionless. On his face appeared a subtle change, not shame but something gentler, like the first light of morning touching a horizon long held in darkness. The visiting Zen master did not press the moment. He remained simply present, allowing each person to receive whatever understanding was ready to arise. Nothing more was needed. At last, the abbot of the monastery stepped forward. He was an elderly man whose many years of practice had cultivated humility as naturally as breath. He bowed deeply to their guest. "There is a teaching in your words that we may have overlooked," he said quietly. "We have focused so fully on transcending ordinary limits that we may have lost sight of something essential. Would you walk with us and share more?" The Zen master returned the bow. "I claim no special insight," he replied. "I am only curious about the questions your demonstrations have awakened. Perhaps we can explore them together." They began walking back toward the monastery. Snow still crowned the distant peaks while deep shadows filled the valleys below. The wide sky stretched overhead, silent and open. "As for the ferryman I mentioned," the master said gently as they walked, "he has no extraordinary powers. He cannot walk on water or rise above it. His abilities are simple strength in his arms, knowledge of the river, and patience grown through years of service." Several monks listened closely, their expressions thoughtful. And yet the master continued. "Each day he accomplishes the same result. He helps people reach the other shore." They paused at a bend in the path where the valley opened wide beneath them. "I do not speak to diminish your dedication," the master added. "The effort required to cultivate such abilities is real and worthy of respect, but it may be helpful to ask a simple question. What is the purpose of spiritual practice?" The question lingered in the clear mountain air. If the purpose is to develop remarkable abilities that set us apart, then such achievements may seem like success. But if the purpose is freedom from suffering our own and others, then perhaps success looks different. The water-walking monk spoke softly. Are you saying our years of practice have been misguided?" The master met his gaze with kindness. Nothing is wasted when pursued with sincerity, but even spiritual accomplishments can quietly become something the self clings to. The question is whether they reduce suffering, whether they deepen compassion, whether they bring us closer to the peace the Buddha described. A silence followed. Many felt something shift within them. The ferryman the master continued, likely does not think of himself as spiritual. He does not seek recognition or distinction. He simply helps. Whoever comes accepts a small coin and lives a simple life. In his ordinariness, he expresses something essential, natural helpfulness, free of ambition. One of the younger monks spoke hesitantly. "But do not such powers inspire others? Do they not show what the human mind can achieve?" The master nodded. "Inspiration has its place. But consider what truly changes a human heart. Is it witnessing something extraordinary that feels distant and unattainable? Or is it encountering kindness, presence, and wisdom expressed through ordinary acts?" As the monastery bells sounded in the distance calling the community to evening practice, the master offered one final reflection. "The greatest miracle may not be walking on water," he said softly. "It may be the ability to be fully present with another being in their suffering, to listen without judgment, to help without seeking recognition, to find peace in ordinary moments. These require no special powers, yet they are among the rarest of all." That evening, as the monks sat in meditation, something in the atmosphere had changed. The urgency that had driven years of striving softened. In its place, a quieter inquiry arose. What truly serves? What genuinely helps? What brings peace? Not as an achievement, but as a natural expression of understanding. Tonight, as you rest in this stillness, you might also sense the quiet power of ordinary presence. The simple ability to be aware, to care, to respond with whatever wisdom is available. These are the true powers. They require no mountain monastery, no years of extreme effort. They are already here, waiting in this breath, this moment, this ordinary and precious life. Let us now turn to a story about the difference between forcing obedience and inviting genuine cooperation, and about how true influence arises not from power, but from understanding the human heart. Long ago, in a prosperous region of Japan, there lived a Zen teacher named Bankai. Over time, his reputation spread quietly, from village to village, not through grand proclamations, but through word of mouth. People spoke of him with a kind of ease, as one speaks of something that simply feels right. Unlike many teachers of his time, Bankai did not rely on long quotations or complicated doctrine. He spoke plainly from direct experience. His words were simple, yet they seemed to touch something deep in those who listened. When Bankai spoke of peace, people felt their bodies soften. When he spoke of the mind, listeners recognized something familiar, as if he were naming what they had always sensed, but never put into words. His teaching was not about acquiring anything new, but about noticing what was already present. People from every walk of life began to gather around him. Farmers came seeking rest from endless labor. Merchants arrived worn down by constant bargaining. Samurai tired of violence listened in silence. Servants, nobles, and ordinary villagers sat side by side, all drawn by the same quiet relief they felt in his presence. As his gatherings grew, not everyone was pleased. A priest from a well-established Buddhist sect watched with growing resentment as his own temple emptied. while Bankai's audiences expanded. This priest had devoted his life to study memorization and maintaining his position in the religious hierarchy. Respect and obedience were central to his sense of self. To see a teacher who quoted no scriptures, claimed no authority, and performed no rituals attract such devotion felt deeply insulting. Surely he thought this Bankai must be deceiving people. Someone needed to expose him. One afternoon, as Bankai sat speaking calmly in a temple courtyard, a disturbance arose at the back of the gathering. The priest pushed his way forward, his fine robes rustling sharply, his face tight with indignation. People turned, sensing conflict. "Hey, Zen teacher!" the priest called out loudly, his tone deliberately disrespectful. Bankai looked up without the slightest irritation. His expression remained open, attentive, the same as it had been moments before. "Wait!" the priest continued, raising his voice. "I want everyone here to hear this." The crowd fell silent. "All these people listen to you," the priest declared. "They obey you as if you possess some special wisdom. But I want you to know that I do not respect you at all. Your reputation means nothing to me." Then he issued his challenge. "Tell me, can you make me obey you? Can your so-called wisdom control someone like me?" A ripple of tension moved through the gathering. Many expected anger. Others expected a sharp rebuttal. Instead, Bankai smiled. "Please," he said gently, "come sit closer to me. It will be easier to speak if you are not so far away." The priest, pleased to have provoked a response, stepped forward, confidently, and stood beside him. "Thank you," Bankai said warmly. "Now perhaps you could stand just to my left. The sound carries a bit better there." Without thinking, the priest moved to the left. Bankai paused as if reconsidering. "Actually," he said softly, "it might be clearer if you stood on my right instead." Again, the priest stepped where he was asked. Bankai's eyes softened with quiet amusement. Not mockery, but kindness. "You see," he said calmly, "you're already cooperating quite naturally. And I notice you seem to be a gentle person at heart. Please sit here beside me and let us listen together." The priest froze. In that moment, understanding dawned. He had come to prove his independence, his resistance to influence. Yet without force, without argument, without authority. He had followed each request with ease. Nothing had been demanded of him. He had been met only with warmth and respect. And in response, his own natural willingness had emerged. His prepared arguments dissolved. His indignation faded. He stood exposed, not humiliated, but gently disarmed. No power had been used. No obedience had been enforced. True influence had revealed itself, not as control, but as an invitation the heart naturally accepts. Something quiet shifted within the priest as he stood beside Bankai, aware of the many eyes resting upon him. The anger that had carried him forward only moments earlier had faded completely. In its place arose something unexpected: curiosity, and beneath that, a subtle sense of relief. For most of his life, he had approached every encounter as a contest. Every conversation had been something to win. Every disagreement a threat to be defended against. His religious path had been built on credentials, arguments, and authority, on creating an image strong enough to command obedience. This was the only form of influence he had ever known. Yet here was a man who moved in an entirely different way. Bankai had not challenged him. He had not defended himself. He had not tried to dominate or diminish. Instead, he had simply offered welcome. open, unguarded welcome. And in that space, something in the priest's armor had quietly fallen away. Still unsettled, he lowered himself to sit beside the master. The tension in the crowd softened. What had seemed moments ago like the beginning of confrontation had dissolved into something gentler, though no one could quite name it. Bankai allowed the silence to deepen before speaking again. His words now flowed naturally without reference to what had just occurred, yet somehow touching it directly. "We are taught from a young age," he said calmly, "that power means the ability to make others do what we want. Those above command, those below obey. This pattern shapes families, villages, and nations alike." Many listening recognized the truth of this immediately. But has this way of power ever brought lasting peace? Bankai continued. When obedience is forced through fear, pressure, or reward, what happens inside the heart of the one who complies? The priest listened closely. These were questions he had never allowed himself to ask. "The one who is forced may comply outwardly," Bankai said, "but inwardly they resist. They wait. They grow resentful. Power gained through force must be constantly reinforced. It exhausts both the one who commands and the one who obeys." He paused. "But there is another way. When we meet others with respect rather than demand, with trust rather than control, something natural appears. Cooperation arises on its own. Not because anyone has been overpowered, but because they have been seen and welcomed." The words touched something deep in the priest. He thought of his own temple, his own followers, how much of their obedience came from true devotion and how much from fear, habit, or unspoken pressure. "The person who came here today," Bankai said gently, "came prepared for battle. He expected force to meet force. Instead, he was met with welcome. And in that moment, his armor was no longer needed, not because he was defeated, but because there was no enemy." Tears gathered in the priest's eyes, tears that once would have felt unbearable. Now they came without resistance. "This is not weakness," Bankai continued softly. "To meet hostility with openness requires great strength. Any creature can fight when threatened, but to remain open, to continue offering respect in the face of aggression, this comes from deep inner security." The priest understood now why people were drawn to this teacher. It was not special knowledge that gave Bankai his presence. It was embodiment. His words carried weight because they arose from lived understanding. As the gathering slowly dispersed into the late afternoon, the priest remained behind. "I came to expose you," he said quietly, "and instead I have been exposed to myself." Bankai smiled. "Nothing has been revealed that was not already there. You arrived wearing armor you no longer needed. Perhaps you have simply begun to set it down." The priest bowed, not formally but sincerely. "May I return to hear you speak again?" "You are always welcome," Bankai replied, "though you may find that what you seek is already present in your own temple, in your own tradition, in your own heart. Sometimes we travel far to discover what has always been close. Tonight, as you reflect on moments of tension or conflict in your own life, you might remember this meeting. What might change if you approached others, not prepared for battle, but open to connection? True influence requires no force. It does not seek to overpower. It simply offers presence, respect, and welcome. And in that space, cooperation arises naturally like water flowing downhill. You may rest now in that understanding, letting it settle gently without effort into the quiet of this moment. As we continue our journey through the quiet wisdom of Zen, let us turn to a story about how something practical, when no longer questioned, can slowly turn into empty ritual. It is a teaching that gently invites us to look again at the traditions we follow and to ask not whether they are ancient or respected, but whether we still understand their original purpose. Long ago, high in the mountains of ancient China, there stood a peaceful monastery. For many generations, a devoted community of monks had lived and practiced there, following rhythms that had been refined over centuries. They rose before dawn, sat together in silence as the first light touched the mountain peaks, worked mindfully through the day, and returned again each evening for their most cherished practice. This evening, meditation was considered the heart of their spiritual life. As daylight softened and the world naturally grew quieter, the mind also found it easier to settle. Through years of observation, the monks had noticed that something subtle opened during these twilight hours. Thoughts loosened their grip. Awareness deepened. Silence felt more accessible. Because of this, they protected the evening meditation carefully, allowing nothing to disturb its stillness. The monastery grounds, however, were also home to a cat. Years earlier, the animal had wandered in from the surrounding forest and decided to stay. He was a large orange tom, missing part of one ear with the confidence and independence typical of cats who answer to no one. For the most part, he caused little trouble and was regarded fondly by the monks, except in the evenings. Something about the meditation hall during the evening session drew the cat irresistibly. Perhaps it was the warmth of many bodies sitting close together. Perhaps it was the deep stillness which cats often find impossible to ignore. Or perhaps it was simply the nature of a cat to appear exactly where it is least convenient. Night after night, as the monks settled into silence, the cat would arrive. He would cry loudly at the door until someone opened it. He would stroll between the rows of seated monks, brushing against robes and nudging meditation cushions. His tail would sweep water bowls onto the floor. On particularly lively evenings, he would leap onto the altar itself, scattering incense and disrupting the carefully arranged offerings. At first, the monks tried to ignore him, but the cat was persistent and concentration proved difficult. They tried closing doors and windows, yet somehow he always found his way inside. They fed him earlier, hoping he might sleep through the evening, but his appetite for mischief did not depend on hunger. Eventually, the teacher who led the monastery, a man known for both clarity and practicality, decided that something simple had to be done. Rather than fighting the cat's nature, he chose to work with it. Before evening meditation, he instructed, "One monk will gently catch the cat and tie him to the post in the corner of the hall. Use a soft rope so he is comfortable. Make sure he has water. He will protest at first, but he will soon settle." The solution worked. Each evening, the cat was secured, kindly but firmly. After a few moments of complaint, he usually curled up and went to sleep. The meditation hall returned to silence, and the monks could again sink into their practice without interruption. Time passed. The monks came and went. Seasons turned. The evening meditation deepened. Tying the cat became routine. No one discussed it. It was simply how things were done, as natural as ringing the bell or lighting incense. Eventually, the old teacher grew ill and died. His students mourned him deeply and resolved to preserve everything he had taught. They continued the practices, exactly as he had left them, believing this was the best way to honor his wisdom. This included, of course, tying the cat before evening meditation. More years passed. Then one day the original cat died. The monks buried him with surprising solemnity. After all, he had been part of their daily practice for many years. But that evening a new problem arose. As meditation time approached, there was no cat. The monks looked at one another in confusion. How could they begin evening meditation without completing the proper preparation? This step had always been done. Surely it was essential. Surely it carried deep meaning, even if that meaning was not immediately clear. After urgent discussion, they sent several younger monks down into the nearby villages to find another cat. It took days, but eventually they returned with a suitable replacement. He was orange like the original, though both ears were intact. That evening, with visible relief, they tied the new cat to the familiar post and began their meditation. Order had been restored. Generations passed. New monks arrived, learned the forms, and eventually became teachers themselves. Each was taught that correct evening practice required tying the cat. When students asked why, the elders replied that it was tradition established by a great teacher of the past. It must therefore hold profound spiritual significance. Over time, scholars within the monastery began writing commentaries about the meaning of the tied cat. They explained how it symbolized the restless mind that must be gently restrained, how the rope represented compassionate discipline, how the cat's presence reminded practitioners of the animal nature to be transcended through meditation. These explanations were elegant, detailed, and completely removed from the original reason the practice had begun. Centuries later, the ritual of tying the cat had become sacred tradition, defended, analyzed, and passed down with great seriousness. No one remembered that it had started for a simple reason. One cat would not stop disrupting the evening meditation. The story of the monastery cat carries a teaching that reaches far beyond temple walls or ancient practices. It quietly reveals a pattern so common in human life that we rarely notice it at work. Practical solutions slowly turn into unquestioned rituals. Forms continue long after their original purpose has faded. And before we realize it, we begin honoring the container while forgetting what it was meant to hold. You may recognize this pattern in your own life. In families, certain things are done in certain ways at certain times simply because they always have been. Holidays follow scripts written by people who are no longer here. Meals are prepared according to traditions that once solved real problems, but now continue by habit alone. Conversations repeat familiar lines worn smooth by years of repetition. There is nothing inherently wrong with this. Tradition can offer comfort. It can provide continuity, a sense of belonging, a quiet connection to those who came before us. But the story of the cat invites a gentle question. Which of our inherited forms still serve a living purpose, and which have become rituals disconnected from the reason they were born? This question applies especially to spiritual practice. Every spiritual tradition carries forms that once emerged from direct experience. Gestures, words, postures, schedules, objects. Over time, what was once alive can harden into routine. A prayer that once expressed real longing becomes words spoken without feeling. A meditation posture that once supported alert presence becomes discomfort, endured out of discipline. A sacred text that once nourished the heart becomes an obligation rather than a source of insight. The monks who wrote, learned explanations about the meaning of the tied cat, were not foolish or dishonest. They sincerely believed they were uncovering something profound. Their interpretations were thoughtful, even beautiful in their own way. Yet they were creating meaning for something that had never been meant to carry meaning. They were discovering depth in what had always been practical. This too reflects a very human tendency. We are meaning-making beings. When the origins of a practice are forgotten, we invent explanations. We find symbolism. We build stories to justify what we have inherited. Sometimes this enriches life. But when we mistake our invented meanings for original wisdom, we drift quietly away from truth. So how might we relate to this teaching skillfully, not by rejecting tradition? To abandon all inherited forms would leave us unrooted and disconnected from genuine sources of wisdom. But perhaps by holding forms more lightly, by returning from time to simple questions. Why do we do this? What need did it originally meet? Does it still meet that need now? Zen practice has always emphasized this kind of inquiry. There is an old warning about confusing a finger pointing at the moon with the moon itself. Words, rituals, methods, institutions can all point toward awakening, but none of them are awakening. When we cling to the finger and forget the moon, we are tying a cat that no longer needs tying. In the original story, the teacher showed wisdom not by creating a ritual, but by responding practically to what was happening. There was a disruptive cat. He solved the problem simply. He did not claim spiritual significance. He did not attach philosophy. He responded to the moment as it was. This quality of fresh responsiveness is at the heart of authentic spiritual life. True wisdom is not rigid loyalty to the past, nor restless rejection of it. It is the capacity to see clearly what each situation actually requires. Sometimes that means honoring tradition. Sometimes it means letting it go. Consider your own life. Which practices still feel alive, which nourish you, which bring clarity, ease, or connection, and which have become obligations carried out from habit, fear, or a sense of duty disconnected from any living benefit. Perhaps there are cats you no longer need to tie. Perhaps there are forms that can be released with gratitude for what they once offered, without insisting they must continue forever. This does not mean constant change is better than stability. Endless novelty can be as empty as rigid tradition. Between the two lies a quieter path, one of respectful examination. We receive what has been handed down with appreciation. We question with care, and we continue only what continues to serve. The deepest teaching of the monastery cat may be this: every form was once formless. Every tradition began as someone's practical response to a real moment. When we remember this, we can honor the past without becoming imprisoned by it. Tonight, as you settle toward rest, you might gently ask yourself, what am I maintaining from habit rather than necessity? What forms remain because of fear rather than function? And what might be revealed if I allowed some of them to loosen naturally? These questions do not demand immediate answers. They simply invite honest looking. In that clarity, wisdom can operate on its own. What needs to remain will remain. What is ready to fall away will fall away. And beneath all forms, all traditions, all practices, the essential purpose remains unchanged. Not the perfection of rituals, but the quiet liberation of the heart that uses them. May you rest now in that simplicity, trusting that what truly matters will not be lost when unnecessary forms are gently set down. Let us turn now to a story about acceptance, contentment, and the quiet freedom that becomes available when we change our relationship with life's uncertainties. It is a simple teaching carried in a brief exchange between two strangers on a mountain path. In a region where the land rose gently from fertile valleys into high pastures, and then higher still, toward peaks that brushed the clouds, people lived very close to the rhythms of earth and sky. Their lives depended on forces far beyond personal control. Rain arrived or failed to arrive. Winters could be mild or unforgiving. The weather moved according to its own laws, indifferent to human wishes. Among these mountain people were the shepherds. They spent long days in open meadows far from shelter where the sky could change without warning. Sunshine could give way to heavy rain within hours. A calm morning could turn into a dangerous afternoon. Over generations, shepherds learned not only how to care for their flocks, but how to live with uncertainty itself. One summer morning, a traveler walked along a winding path that connected two distant valleys. He had started before dawn, hoping to make good time before the heat settled in. But as the sun climbed higher, clouds began gathering in the distance. The sky seemed undecided, holding many possibilities at once. The traveler felt uneasy. He was a man who valued planning. He liked to know what was coming. He preferred clear schedules, predictable outcomes, and futures that could be managed with enough thought and preparation. The mountain weather disturbed him precisely because it refused to be managed. It did not respond to planning or intention. As he rounded a bend in the path, he noticed an elderly shepherd sitting quietly on a large flat stone beside the trail. Below them, a small flock of sheep grazed peacefully, their soft bells and occasional bleats drifting upward on the breeze. The shepherd's appearance was simple. His clothes were worn, his face was deeply lined by sun and wind. Yet his posture was relaxed, and there was a calm ease about him that caught the traveler's attention. Here was a man whose livelihood depended entirely on the weather, yet he seemed completely at peace beneath an uncertain sky. "Good morning," the traveler called out, stopping nearby. "You must know these mountains well. I wonder if you could tell me what kind of weather we're going to have today." The shepherd looked up slowly. His eyes were clear, steady, and kind. After a moment, he smiled. "The kind of weather I like," he said simply. The traveler hesitated, unsure how to respond. He had expected a forecast or at least an educated guess. Instead, he felt as though he had been given a riddle. "I'm not sure I understand," he said. "The sky looks uncertain. It might rain. It might clear. It could even storm. How can you be sure it will be weather you like if you don't know what weather is coming?" The shepherd's smile deepened. For a moment, his gaze drifted toward the distant peaks as if he were looking not only at the sky but through it. "You see," he said gently, "I learned something important many years ago." He paused, letting the sounds of sheep and wind fill the space between them. "I learned that I cannot always get the weather I like. The mountains do not ask for my opinion. Rain comes when it comes. The sun shines or hides itself without consulting my plans. For many years I fought against this. I wished for sun when it rained. I longed for rain when the heat became unbearable. I was always at odds with whatever arrived. The traveler nodded slowly. This felt familiar. But one day the shepherd continued. I noticed something. My struggle never changed the weather. My frustration never stopped a storm. My worry never cooled a hot day. All it did was add suffering to circumstances that were already beyond my control. He shifted slightly on the stone, still speaking calmly. So I chose something different. Since I cannot always get what I like, I learned to like what I get. Not by pretending difficulties are pleasant and not by denying hardship, but by discovering that peace does not have to wait for conditions to improve. The traveler listened intently. I found that contentment is possible in rain or sunshine, the shepherd said, in cold or heat, in days that go according to plan and days that do not. The weather still changes, but my heart no longer has to change with it. A quiet understanding settled over the traveler. Here was a freedom he had never considered, one that did not depend on controlling outcomes. So the shepherd concluded softly, I am quite certain we will have the kind of weather I like today, because I have learned to like whatever weather we have. The clouds continued to drift above them undecided. The sheep grazed on, and for the first time that morning the traveler felt his chest loosen, as if something he had been holding too tightly had gently let go. The traveler remained standing in silence for a long moment. Something subtle had shifted within him. It was not a sudden revelation or dramatic insight, but a quiet recognition. A possibility he had never truly considered. Until now, his life had been organized around a single assumption. That peace came from control. That safety came from certainty. That happiness depended on arranging circumstances, so they matched his preferences. The shepherd's words suggested a very different foundation for well-being. But surely, the traveler said slowly, feeling his way through the thought, you still have preferences. You must feel the difference between pleasant and unpleasant weather. A calm, sunny day must still be better than cold rain and harsh wind. The shepherd nodded gently. Of course, he said. I am not speaking of becoming numb or pretending that all experiences feel the same. My body still prefers warmth. My flock still grazes more easily in good weather. My old bones still ache when damp settles into the mountains. Preference has not disappeared. What has changed is my relationship to it. He picked up a small stone lying beside him and turned it thoughtfully in his palm. Preference is natural, he continued. Even the sheep have preferences. They prefer soft grass to rough scrub, sunshine to rain, calm to storm. But the sheep do not suffer over their preferences. When the rain comes, they get wet. They do not spend the day wishing for yesterday's sun or worrying about tomorrow's storm. They are wet now, and they are simply wet. He placed the stone back on the ground and looked at the traveler. We humans have a peculiar ability. We can make ourselves miserable about the present by comparing it to something that is not here. We can stand in sunshine while mentally reliving yesterday's rain. We can walk through a calm morning while fearing a storm that may never arrive. This ability to move through time with our minds can be useful, but when it becomes habitual, it robs us of peace no matter what the weather actually is. The traveler felt the truth of this settle into his body. Even now on this quiet path in a morning that was neither storm nor sunshine, but simply morning, his thoughts had been filled with anxious projections. He had been suffering from weather that existed only in his imagination. "How did you learn this?" he asked. "Did a teacher show you some kind of practice?" The shepherd smiled. "The mountains taught me. The sheep taught me. The sky taught me. And above all, exhaustion taught me." He gestured toward the meadow below. "For many years I worried as you do. I planned, predicted, and tried to control what could not be controlled. I celebrated when things went my way and suffered when they did not. And one day I noticed something. This way of living was harming me far more than any storm ever had." The clouds continued to drift above them, still undecided. "A hard winter did not take my happiness," the shepherd said quietly. "My fear of winter did. A drought did not steal my peace. My resistance to drought did. I began to see that my inner weather caused far more suffering than the outer weather ever could. And unlike the sky, my inner weather was something I could learn to live with. So, you decided to accept whatever comes?" the traveler asked. The shepherd shook his head slightly. "Acceptance is not quite the right word. It can sound like giving up. What I found was something closer to alignment, like a tree that bends with the wind instead of fighting it, or water that takes the shape of its container without struggle. The tree is not defeated by the wind. The water is not resigned to the vessel. They are simply living according to their nature." He paused, watching a hawk circle slowly above the valley. "When I stopped insisting that conditions be different, I discovered how much energy I had been spending, resisting what was already here, arguing with the present, dreading the future, regretting the past. When I set that down, everything grew lighter." The traveler felt a soft loosening in his chest, as if something he had been holding for years had finally been allowed to rest. "The weather will do what it does," the shepherd said. "This is true, whether I welcome it or fight it. My acceptance does not change the sky, but it changes my experience of standing beneath it completely." He stood up slowly, stretching his stiff joints. "My friend," he said kindly, "I hope your journey brings whatever it brings. Sunshine or rain, ease or delay. Whatever unfolds, the possibility of peace travels with you. Not as something you must create, but as something you can allow when you stop demanding that life behave differently. Tonight, as you rest within whatever conditions surround you, comfortable or uncomfortable, quiet or restless, perhaps you can try the shepherd's discovery. What if contentment did not depend on circumstances improving? What if peace were not found at the end of struggle, but in the simple release of struggling? The weather of life will continue to change. But perhaps, like the shepherd, you can learn to like whatever kind of weather you receive. Let us now turn to a teaching about impermanence, about the fragile nature of everything we believe we possess: our roles, our status, even our identities, and about the quiet freedom that appears when we recognize ourselves as temporary guests in the great inn of existence. Long ago in ancient India, during an age when kingdoms rose and fell like waves along a vast shore, there lived a wandering spiritual teacher whose insight had become known across many lands. Unlike teachers who remained in monasteries or secluded ashrams, this sage spent his life walking from village to village, from city to city. He shared the Buddha's teaching wherever people were willing to listen. His feet had touched countless roads. His eyes had seen birth and death, wealth and poverty, celebration and grief. Over time, his heart had grown spacious enough to hold all of it without resistance. Eventually, word of his wisdom reached a powerful king who ruled from a magnificent palace in the capital city. This king possessed everything most people spend their lives chasing: power, wealth, security, a lineage that stretched far into the past and promised continuation into the future. And yet beneath all this success, a subtle unease had begun to stir, a sense that something essential remained unanswered, a hunger no conquest or comfort could satisfy. When the wandering teacher arrived in the capital, the king immediately sent an invitation. He wished to meet this man, who seemed to carry something beyond the reach of gold or authority. The teacher accepted and walked through the crowded streets toward the royal compound. As he approached, the palace revealed itself slowly. First the high stone walls, then gardens filled with fountains and rare flowers, then the palace itself rising above the city like a jeweled mountain. The walls gleamed with polished marble. Precious stones caught the sunlight and scattered it into shifting colors. Golden domes crowned the towers. Silk banners moved gently in the breeze. Guards stood watch in shining armor. Everything spoke of power, of permanence, of importance. The teacher passed through corridor after corridor, each more elaborate than the last. Priceless tapestries, carved sculptures, paintings preserved through generations. And yet his expression never changed. Neither impressed nor disturbed. He moved through splendor exactly as he moved through simplicity, with calm attention and ease. At last he was led into the throne room. The chamber was vast. Columns of jade and teak rose toward a ceiling so high it felt like an indoor sky. At the far end, elevated above the marble floor, sat the king upon a throne of gold and ivory. He wore deep purple silk. A crown, heavy with jewels, rested upon his head. Courtiers lined the walls, glittering in fine garments. The atmosphere declared unmistakably, "Here is power. Here is authority. Here is something meant to endure." The king studied the teacher with interest. This man in worn robes seemed strangely unmoved by surroundings that left others speechless. There was a steadiness in him, quiet, unshakable, that the king found both puzzling and compelling. "Welcome, venerable teacher," the king said. "I have heard much of your wisdom. Tell me, what do you seek? What brings you here? I am prepared to support your teaching generously." The teacher bowed simply, neither excessively humble nor defiant. When he spoke, his voice was gentle and clear. "Your Majesty is kind. I have traveled far today. I am tired. I would be grateful for a place to sleep tonight in this inn." A soft ripple of surprise moved through the court. Some courtiers exchanged glances. Others smiled faintly in disbelief. The king raised his eyebrows. "This is no inn," he said. "This is my palace, the seat of royal power for generations. My family has ruled from here longer than memory reaches." The teacher nodded slowly, as if receiving this information with genuine interest. "I see," he said. "Forgive my confusion. May I ask a question?" The king gestured for him to continue. "Who lived in this palace before you, your Majesty?" the teacher asked. "Who sat upon this throne before you?" "My father," the king replied. "He ruled for many years before his death. I inherited the throne from him." "And before your father?" the teacher asked. "My grandfather," the king said. "And before him, my great-grandfather." This dynasty stretches back through many generations. A stillness settled over the hall. The teacher looked gently at the king. So he said softly, "This is a place where people arrive. They stay for a time, sometimes many years, and then they leave. He paused. One after another, your ancestors came here. They ruled, they lived, and they departed. He let the words settle. You yourself arrived here at birth. You have stayed for some decades, and one day, as surely as all who came before you, you too will leave. The room felt different now, quieter, less solid. The teacher tilted his head slightly, his tone kind rather than confrontational. "And this place," he said, "where people stay temporarily before moving on. Forgive me, Your Majesty, but did I misunderstand when you said it is not an inn?" Complete silence filled the throne room. The courtiers stood perfectly still, scarcely breathing. Their eyes moved slowly between the king and the wandering teacher who had spoken words no one expected to hear in this place. The question lingered in the air like incense smoke. Impossible to dismiss. Impossible to answer in any way that would restore the comfortable assumptions that had governed this chamber only moments before. The king remained motionless on his throne. His face revealed no anger. The teacher's words had carried no disrespect, no challenge to authority, no trace of insult. They had done something far more unsettling. They had simply pointed to a truth so obvious that it had somehow remained unseen until now. For a long while, no one spoke. The king's gaze drifted beyond the marble walls, as if he was seeing through the palace itself. Perhaps he was sensing the long procession of rulers who had once sat where he now sat, each certain of their permanence, each eventually yielding their place to another temporary occupant. At last the king spoke. His voice was quieter than before, less automatic, less armored. "I have never thought of it in this way," he said slowly. "I have always believed this palace was mine. My inheritance, my legacy to pass to my son. The idea that I am merely a guest here. This is not how kings are taught to think." The teacher's expression softened. "Your Majesty," he said gently, "I mean no disrespect to your position or your lineage. Kings serve necessary roles, and wise governance brings real benefit to the people. I am not suggesting you abandon your responsibilities." He paused, choosing his words carefully. But there is a difference between fulfilling a role with devotion and mistaking that role for who you are. "You are king now," he continued, "but you were not always king. Before this you were a prince. Before that a child who knew nothing of crowns or kingdoms. And one day, whether through time or death, the crown will be set down again." The king listened intently. "Everything you believe you possess, the teacher said, you hold only temporarily. This palace will remain after you are gone. Other rulers will walk these halls. Other men will sit upon this throne, each one feeling as you feel now that this is theirs, that this is lasting." He gestured softly around the vast chamber. The marble was taken from mountains older than any dynasty. The gold in your crown was ancient before your first ancestor was born. Even your body, the body that experiences kingship, is borrowed for a time, assembled from the earth and destined to return to it. The king nodded slowly, not in defeat, but in recognition. "Then what remains?" he asked. "If everything I believed was mine is only borrowed, if even my identity as king is a garment worn for a few decades, what is truly real? What is truly mine?" The teacher smiled warmly. "That question," he said, "is the beginning of wisdom. Most people never ask it. They live convinced that they are their titles, their possessions, their stories. And they suffer deeply when these temporary arrangements change. They mistake the furniture of the inn for the inn itself, he continued. And more deeply, they mistake the inn for home. But to ask what remains when all that is temporary is seen as temporary, this opens a door few ever find. What remains, the teacher said softly, is what was present before you were king, before you were prince, before you were anyone with a name and a story. It is the awareness that is listening right now, the consciousness that was present at your first breath and will be present at your last. The throne room felt different now. Evening light slipped through the tall windows, painting the marble floors in golden rose. The day itself was passing, just as all days pass. This awareness, the teacher continued, is the only thing that could be called truly yours, and even that is shared by all. It does not grow with success or shrink with failure. It is not impressed by palaces or disturbed by poverty. It simply is. The king sat quietly, letting the words settle beyond thought. At last he spoke. "I will have a room prepared for you," he said. "Perhaps the finest room in this inn. And if you are willing," he added, "perhaps tomorrow we might continue this conversation. I find I have many questions I have never thought to ask." The teacher bowed with ease. "I am grateful for your hospitality," he said, "and for your openness. Many in your position would have responded with anger. Your willingness to listen speaks to what lies beneath the crown. Tonight, as you rest in your own temporary dwelling, whatever form it takes perhaps, you can sense the truth of this teaching. The room around you is borrowed. The body you inhabit is borrowed. The identity you carry is borrowed. You are a guest here for a time. What remains when all of this is allowed to pass? In that question, and in the willingness not to answer it too quickly, lies the doorway to a quiet and profound freedom." The young monk stood quietly, gazing at the dog, at the master's lowered hand, and then at the moon itself, vast, luminous, utterly unconcerned with fingers or explanations. For the first time in a long while, his mind stopped racing. The master resumed walking, and the monk followed their footsteps, soft against the earth. The dog trotted ahead again, already having forgotten the strange request to fetch the moon. "You see," the master said gently, "words are not the truth. They are invitations, directions. They exist only to turn your attention towards something that cannot be captured by language." The young monk nodded slowly, feeling the truth of this, not as an idea, but as a quiet easing inside his chest. When a teaching speaks of emptiness, the master continued, it points in one way. When another speaks of Buddha nature, it points in another. When effort is emphasized, the finger points one direction. When effortlessness is emphasized, it points another. He paused. But the moon does not change because the fingers differ. They walked beneath the open sky, moonlight spilling across the path ahead. "You became trapped," the master said, kindly, "because your mind mistook the pointing for the destination. You tried to resolve contradictions between words rather than allowing the words to lead you beyond themselves." The monk felt a subtle embarrassment arise, followed almost immediately by relief. "Yes," he said softly, "that is exactly what I have been doing." The master smiled, not in correction but in recognition. "This happens to many intelligent students," he said. "A sharp mind can cut very finely, but it cannot taste sweetness. No amount of analysis can replace direct seeing. They stopped again, this time at a small clearing. The moon reflected faintly in a pool of still water nearby. "Tell me," the master asked, "when you look at the moon reflected in water, do you try to grab the reflection?" "No," the monk replied. "I know it is only an image, and yet the master said you have been trying to grasp awakening through images made of words." The monk exhaled as if releasing something he had been holding for years. "Then what should I do?" he asked quietly. The master looked up at the moon, then back at his student. "Stop studying the finger for a while," he said. "Look directly." They stood together in silence. No teaching, no explanation, just moonlight breath presence. In that silence, the monk noticed something unexpected. The contradictions that had tormented him were simply absent, not resolved, not answered, just gone. There was only this moment, only awareness, only the quiet clarity of being here. Later that night, as they returned to the monastery, the young monk felt lighter, not because he had gained understanding, but because he had let go of the need to contain truth within concepts. The words had not failed him. He had simply been holding them too tightly. Tonight, as you rest, perhaps you can remember this gentle teaching. Words, ideas, explanations, even these stories are only fingers. They point, they guide, but they are not what they point toward. If confusion arises, perhaps you do not need more answers. Perhaps you need only to look quietly directly at what is already shining. The moon does not argue. It does not explain itself. It simply shines. And so do you when the mind finally releases its grip. The young monk stood quietly in the moonlight. The master's words moved through him gently, loosening layers of conceptual confusion that had built up over many years of intense study. Nearby, the dog had already wandered off, nose to the ground, following some interesting scent. His part in the teaching was finished. Entirely unaware, he had offered a lesson deeper than words. "But Master," the young monk said after a while, still thinking carefully, "if all teachings are only fingers pointing at the moon, how am I meant to find the moon itself? Should I abandon study? Should I ignore the scriptures and the words of teachers?" The master shook his head slowly. "No," he said gently. "That would simply be another mistake. Throwing away the finger before you have seen what it points toward. The teachings are not useless," he continued. "They are precious. Without them, you might wander for a lifetime, searching everywhere, except where the truth actually is." They began walking again. The young monk followed beside him, the path ahead, glowing softly under moonlight. "The problem," the master said, "is not study itself. The problem is mistaking study for the destination. You have been collecting teachings the way someone collects maps of a land they never visit. Oh, your mind is full of descriptions of the moon, its phases, its distance, its influence on tides, yet you rarely look up from the scrolls to see it shining directly above you." The young monk felt this land in his body. His days had been consumed by reading, memorizing, debating. Even meditation had become another form of analysis. Beauty had turned into commentary. Silence into something to be explained. The teachings seem to contradict each other, the master continued, because they are spoken to different people at different moments with different needs. To someone attached to possessions, the teaching of emptiness brings freedom. To someone who mistakes emptiness for nothingness, the teaching of Buddha nature restores balance. To someone who has grown lazy, effort is prescribed. to someone who has grown tense and grasping relaxation is taught. They stopped beside a small stream. Moonlight shimmered on its surface. The sound of water filled the night. No single teaching can contain the truth, the master said softly, because the truth cannot be contained by words. Language divides, this and that, here and there, true and false, but what the teachings point toward exists before all division. It is the awareness in which all distinctions appear. Trying to grasp it with thought, he added, is like trying to catch water with a net. The tool itself cannot succeed. The young monk sat down on a smooth stone by the stream. Years of mental effort suddenly felt heavy. Then what should I do? He asked quietly. If thinking cannot reach the truth, how can I find it? The master sat beside him. The dog returned and settled at their feet with a slow, contented sigh. You do not find it, the master said. You recognize that you never lost it. The moon is not hiding. It has been shining clearly the entire time you were studying descriptions of it. The awareness you are searching for is the very awareness that is doing the searching. It is closer than close, so close that you overlook it while looking elsewhere. He gestured gently toward the sky. Right now, he said, what is aware of these words, what is hearing the stream, what is seeing the moonlight, what is feeling the cool night air. That awareness did not come from books. It was not given by teachers. It existed before you learned anything, before you knew any teachings, before you had any concepts at all. The young monk fell silent. For the first time in many years, he was not analyzing the silence, not naming it, not comparing it. There was only this moment. The sound of water, the dog's breathing, the vast, quiet moon. The fingers have done their work, the master said softly. They have brought you here. Now you may set them down not by rejecting them, but by seeing that what they pointed toward is already present, or rather, already recognized. They remained there together as the night deepened. From the monastery behind them, a bell rang faint. Let us now explore a teaching about the quiet power we hold in every moment. A teaching about responsibility, choice, and the realization that the answers we seek have always rested in our own hands. In a small village nestled between gentle hills and ancient forests, there lived a teacher whose reputation for wisdom had spread far beyond his modest home. Students traveled long distances to sit with him, not because he offered clever explanations or impressive theories, but because he met each question with presence. His understanding did not come from formulas. It arose naturally in the moment itself. Among the village youth was a young man with a sharp and restless mind. He delighted in exposing flaws, in uncovering what he believed to be hidden pretenses in others. Watching the villagers listen to the teacher with quiet trust, he became convinced that this so-called sage was merely clever, skilled in words, not in truth. Determined to reveal the limits of the teacher's wisdom, the young man devised what he believed was a perfect test. A question with no correct answer. A trap from which no insight could escape. One morning, walking along the edge of a meadow, he noticed a small sparrow perched low on a branch. Moving slowly and carefully, he caught the bird in his cupped hands. It trembled against his palms, its heartbeat rapidly warm and fragile. This would be his proof. He found the teacher seated beneath an old oak tree. A small group of students gathered around him in the soft light of morning. The young man stepped forward, hiding the bird behind his back, his face arranged in a show of respect that barely concealed his anticipation. "Venerable teacher," he said loudly, "ensuring all would hear, I have come with a question to test your wisdom. People say you see beyond ordinary understanding. Today I wish to see if this is true." The teacher looked up calmly. His gaze held no irritation, no defensiveness. He simply waited. "I hold something in my hands behind my back," the young man continued. "Tell me, using your wisdom, is what I hold alive or dead?" A quiet murmur passed through the gathered students. They sensed the challenge, even if they did not yet see its form. The young man felt certain of his victory. If the teacher answered alive, he would crush the bird and reveal its lifeless body. If the teacher answered dead, he would release the bird into the air. Either way, the teacher would be wrong. There was no correct answer. The teacher remained silent for a moment. His face revealed nothing, no calculation, no effort, just stillness. Then he spoke, his voice warm and gentle. "The answer," he said, "is in your hands." The words settled into the air with profound simplicity. In that moment, the trap dissolved completely. The young man stood frozen. He had expected guessing, argument, clever escape. Instead, the teacher had stepped outside the question, entirely revealing a truth the young man had never considered. The fate of the bird had never depended on the teacher at all. It had always rested with him. From the beginning, the power of life and death had been in his own hands. No wisdom, no authority, no answer from another could remove that responsibility. Slowly, he brought his hands forward and looked down. The sparrow gazed back at him, its small body trembling alive with the simple wish to live. In that moment, he saw more than a bird. He saw his own power, the power he exercised every day without noticing, the power to choose kindness or cruelty, to protect or to harm, to give life space or to close his hands. He understood that this was not only about this bird. Every moment of life carried the same truth. Every word spoken, every action taken, every response offered. The answer was always in his hands. Gently, carefully, he opened his palms. For a heartbeat, the sparrow remained still. Then it spread its wings and rose into the morning sky, disappearing into the open blue freedom that had always been there. And with it, something heavy within the young man lifted as well. Tonight, as you rest, perhaps you can remember this teaching. No matter the question life places before you, the answer is already here. Not in words, not in others, but in the way you choose to open your hands. Sleep softly, knowing that even now you hold the quiet power to choose. Let us now explore a teaching about the ultimate nature of spiritual truth. A story that gently removes all concepts, all achievements, all claims to understanding, until only the vast openness remains present before any teaching ever began. Long ago in ancient China, during a time when Buddhism had spread throughout the empire and great monasteries flourished under imperial support, there lived an emperor whose devotion to the Buddha's path was known across the land. Unlike rulers concerned only with conquest and power, this emperor had given much of his life to spiritual practice. He rose before dawn to meditate. He studied sacred texts with care and discipline. He held long conversations with learned monks who visited his court. His palace had become a center of Buddhist culture. He built temples and monasteries throughout the realm. He supported the translation of scriptures. He fed monks, trained monks, protected the Dharma with the resources of an empire. By any outward measure, his devotion was unquestionable. When word reached him of a Zen master whose understanding was said to pass beyond words and scriptures, he immediately sent for him. This Master Bodhidharma had traveled from India, carrying a transmission said to move directly from mind to mind. The emperor was eager to meet him, to test his own understanding, perhaps to receive confirmation that his years of practice had borne fruit. On the day of the master's arrival, the palace was filled with quiet anticipation. Courtiers stood in formal rows, scholars prepared to witness a historic exchange. The emperor himself spent the morning in meditation, steadying his mind. When Bodhidharma entered the throne room, the contrast was unmistakable. He was rough in appearance. His robes were worn from travel. His eyes were sharp and unyielding. He showed neither reverence nor defiance, only directness. He walked forward as a man walking on a road. The emperor observed him closely. This was no polished court monk, no refined scholar skilled in pleasing words. "Venerable master," the emperor said at last, "I have built temples, supported monks, translated scriptures, and practiced the Buddha's teachings for many years. Tell me, what merit have I gained from all these deeds?" It was a sincere question, a natural one. Bodhidharma answered without pause. No merit at all. The throne room fell silent. Courtiers stiffened. Scholars exchanged uneasy glances. The emperor, however, did not react with anger. Instead, he leaned forward slightly. "If there is no merit," he asked, "then what is the highest meaning of the sacred teachings? What is the ultimate truth?" Again, Bodhidharma answered immediately. "Vast emptiness, and not a trace of holiness." The words hung in the air. Emptiness the emperor knew, but no holiness. His entire spiritual life had been built around the pursuit of the sacred. "If that is so," he asked slowly, "then who stands before me? Now who are you?" Bodhidharma met the emperor's gaze. "I do not know." 3 words, no identity, no claim, no ground. The emperor had spent a lifetime accumulating merit, wisdom, virtue, understanding. Bodhidharma pointed to something else entirely. Freedom through release. Truth through not knowing. Peace through nothing added and nothing taken away. The meeting ended without confirmation, without praise, without reassurance. The emperor was left not with answers, but with an opening his learning had never prepared him for. Tonight, as you rest, perhaps you too can touch this freedom. The freedom that comes when striving falls away, when nothing needs to be achieved, when even holiness is set aside. Vast emptiness. Nothing missing, nothing extra. Rest there. Let us now turn to a teaching about the difference between appearing wise and carrying true wisdom. A story that gently asks us to look again at the light we believe we hold, and whether it is still truly shining. In a small village where neighbors knew one another by name, and daily life followed rhythms shaped over generations, there lived a man who had been blind since birth. Despite this, he had built a full and meaningful life. He learned a trade that did not require sight. He formed deep friendships with those who valued his gentle presence and thoughtful conversation. He moved through the village streets with confidence, guided by memory and long familiarity. His closest friend lived several streets away. They shared a simple ritual, long afternoons of tea and conversation. They spoke of village happenings, of memories from youth, of aging, and of life's deeper questions. These visits nourished them both. One evening, their conversation lasted longer than usual. By the time they said goodbye, night had fully settled over the village. The sky was moonless. The streets were dark. As the blind man prepared to leave, his friend looked outside with concern. "My friend," he said gently, "please take my lantern with you. The night is very dark, and I worry about your safety." The blind man smiled. "You are kind," he replied. "But surely you know a lantern is of no use to me. Light and darkness are the same in my eyes. A flame will not give me sight." His friend nodded. "Yes, the lantern cannot help you see, but it can help others see you." On a night like this, he continued, people may be hurrying home. They may not notice you in time and could collide with you. If you carry a light, they will see you from a distance and avoid you. This made sense. The blind man had experienced such collisions before. Carrying a lantern was not for himself, but for others. "Then, I will gladly take it," he said. "Thank you for your care." His friend lit a fresh candle and placed it securely inside the lantern. Warm light spread around them. The doorway was visible. The first steps of the journey felt safe. The blind man set out into the night. The lantern swung gently at his side. Though he could not see its light, he felt its warmth. He walked with quiet confidence, knowing others would see him. He had gone perhaps halfway home when, suddenly, impact. Another body collided with his own. Both men stumbled. The lantern nearly slipped from his hand. "What is this?" the blind man called out, startled. "Can you not see where you're going? I am carrying a lantern, so others will notice me." The other man steadied himself and spoke in confusion. "Lantern," he said. "Yes, I see you are holding one, but the candle inside has gone out. There is no flame." The blind man's hand moved to the lantern. The candle was there, but there was no warmth, no heat, no light. At some point during the walk, the flame had died. Perhaps from wind, perhaps because the candle had burned down. He had been walking through the night carrying the form of light, but not its living presence. The other traveler softened his tone. "I am sorry," he said. "You could not have known. Let me relight it for you." A flame was borrowed from a nearby home. The candle caught. Warmth returned. The blind man thanked him and continued home, but now with a different awareness. Not merely trusting the lantern, but feeling for its warmth. Not assuming the light was present, but quietly checking. Tonight, perhaps you too can ask gently without judgment, what lanterns am I carrying that may have gone dark without my noticing? What understanding do I believe I possess that I have not recently lived? What wisdom needs to be relit? Discovering that the lantern is dark is not failure. It is the moment when true illumination becomes possible. Rest now, and if needed, allow the light to return. And so our journey together draws softly toward its close. Take a moment now to notice what has settled over you during these quiet hours, the stillness that has gathered, the softness that has spread through your body, the gentle spaciousness that has opened in your mind. This profound calm is not something we have created together. It is something that has been uncovered, a peace that was always present beneath the surface activity of daily life, waiting only for the conditions that would allow it to be felt. The stories we have shared tonight were not merely words to fill the silence. They were invitations, doorways into your own deepest understanding. Each teaching pointed toward what you already know, what you have always known, beneath the noise of thinking and the weight of worry. True peace does not come from solving all problems or arranging life according to preference. It comes from recognizing what remains constant beneath all change, the awareness that witnesses everything while being disturbed by nothing. This wisdom is not something you need to hold on to or remember perfectly. It has planted itself within you like seeds in fertile ground. Even when the noise of the world returns tomorrow, even when the mind begins its familiar churning, this foundation of calm remains accessible. You have touched it tonight, and you can always return. Now, as you prepare for deep and restorative rest, allow this feeling of groundedness to anchor you completely. There is nothing left to figure out, nothing remaining to solve. There is only the gentle weight of your body, the soft rhythm of your breath, and the vast quiet presence that holds it all. You are safe, you are whole, you are home. Thank you for joining us on this journey at the long night. May your sleep be deep, your dreams be peaceful, and your waking be gentle. Rest now, rest well. He found the old teacher seated by a window, soft morning light spilling across the wooden floor. The master looked up calmly, his presence unhurried, his expression warm and open. "Master," the young monk said, his voice tight with strain. "I have encountered a teaching I cannot understand. I have examined it from every angle, and still it escapes me. Please help me see its meaning." He recited the passage carefully, then explained his confusion in detail, the contradictions, the paradoxes, the impossibility of resolution. The master listened quietly, eyes bright, nodding gently. And then something unexpected happened. The master smiled. The smile became a soft chuckle. The chuckle grew into open laughter. Deep, warm laughter that filled the room and shook his entire body. Tears formed at the corners of his eyes. The young monk stood frozen. This was not instruction, not clarification, not correction. Without saying a word, the master rose, still laughing, and walked out of the room. For 3 days, the monk could think of nothing else. He barely ate. Sleep came in restless fragments. Meditation dissolved into agitation. Why had his sincerity been met with laughter? Had he been mocked, dismissed, exposed? Finally, unable to bear it any longer, he returned to the master. This time he did not quote texts. He did not bow. He spoke from raw pain. "Master," he said, "for 3 days I have suffered deeply. I cannot eat, I cannot sleep. Please tell me, why did you laugh at my sincere question? Have I wasted my life?" The master looked at him with great tenderness. "My young friend," he said softly, "do you know what your problem is?" The monk waited. "You are worse than a clown." The words struck like thunder. Shock, hurt, anger. How can you say that? The monk protested. "I have devoted my life to truth. I have renounced the world. How can I be worse than an entertainer?" The master's voice remained gentle. "Think of a clown," he said. "A clown's joy comes from making others laugh. When people laugh, the clown feels fulfilled." He paused. "But you, when someone laughs, your peace is destroyed. Your happiness depends on being taken seriously. Your worth depends on gravity, on solemn recognition." He looked at the monk with quiet kindness. If your peace collapses when another person feels joy, are you not in a more fragile state than the clown? The monk sat silently. In that stillness, something cracked open. He saw how tightly he had clung to the image of being a serious seeker, how his spiritual identity had become a mask, then a prison. And suddenly he laughed, at first softly, then freely. He laughed at his own heaviness, at the absurd effort to force awakening through strain. His laughter joined the laughter that had filled the room days earlier. And in that meeting, without explanation, without doctrine, understanding arrived. Not as a thought, but as lightness. Let us experience a story about the unexpected nature of awakening and the quiet discovery that what we seek has been present all along, hidden not somewhere far away, but beneath the very effort of seeking itself. In the serene mountains surrounding Lake Hakone, where mist rose from the water each morning like incense offered to the sky, there stood a monastery known throughout Japan for the seriousness of its practice and the depth of its teachers. Monks traveled from distant provinces hoping to be accepted there. Those who were chosen considered themselves deeply fortunate. Among them lived a humble man named Ichi. There was nothing remarkable about him. His mind was not especially quick. His meditation showed no unusual depth. His understanding of the teachings was simple, sometimes clumsy. From his very first days in the monastery, more than 50 years earlier, Ichi was assigned to the kitchen, while others sat in formal meditation. He chopped vegetables, while they debated philosophy and explored subtle states of awareness. He tended the cooking fires, while younger monks received private instruction and gradually rose in the community. Ichi washed bowls, scrubbed pots, and carried water. He was also given a koan, the most famous one of all. What is the sound of one hand clapping? For 55 years, Ichi carried this question with him. Through every task, every season, every stage of his life, as his hands prepared food, his mind wrestled with the puzzle. As he swept floors, he searched for meaning. Year after year, he brought his answers to the teachers. Year after year, he was sent back. No explanation satisfied them. No gesture rang true. Time passed. Younger monks arrived, struggled, broke through, and moved on. Some became teachers. Some founded monasteries. Ichi remained in the kitchen, slowly growing old over the same worn cutting boards, facing the same unanswered question. He began to believe he was a failure, perhaps the monastery's greatest failure. 55 years of effort and nothing to show for it. As his body weakened and his hands began to tremble, he was moved to a small attic room to rest during his final days. His work was finished. His practice, it seemed, had come to nothing. Drum. He lay there as autumn turned to winter, watching light shift across the walls, listening to the distant bells, hearing monastery life continue without him. And slowly, something unexpected happened. The urgency to solve the koan began to fade. Not suddenly, not dramatically. The shame softened. The comparisons lost their grip. The need to achieve quietly dissolved. He had tried everything. There was nothing left to do. And in that absence of effort, a deep peace began to settle. The lifelong striving fell away. The questioning grew quiet. What remained was simply the moment. The sound of wind in the pines, the slow rhythm of breath, the soft presence of being alive. 5.4. Thoughts which had circled the koan for decades grew still. Not because he stopped them, but because the seeking mind had finally exhausted itself. There was no one left who needed to understand. And in that vast silence, when even the questioner disappeared, Ichi heard it. The sound of one hand clapping, not as a sound, not as an answer, not as something to explain, but as existence itself. Awareness aware. The sound that had always been there, hidden beneath the noise of trying. He understood then, the koan was never meant to be solved. It was meant to wear the seeker out, to bring the mind to its natural stillness. Ichi died quietly that winter, unnoticed by the monastery below, but later a teacher spoke of the unusual silence that lingered in that attic room, a silence too full to be merely empty. Tonight, as your own mind grows quieter, perhaps you too can sense what Ichi discovered, that what you are seeking has never been missing, only covered by the effort to find it. Let us explore a story about how completely our inner state shapes our experience of reality. A teaching that reveals how two people can move through the very same moment, yet live inside entirely different worlds. In ancient China, during a time when wandering monks traveled from monastery to monastery, there existed a custom among Zen communities. Before a traveler could receive lodging for the night, he was asked to take part in what was known as Dharma combat. Not a physical contest, but a quiet meeting of understanding. Questions were offered, responses returned, sometimes with words, sometimes without. Through this exchange, the host monastery would sense whether the visitor could stay or whether his journey should continue. One autumn evening, as the first cold winds descended from the mountains, a travel-worn monk arrived at a well-known monastery. His robes were dusty, his sandals thin from long walking, yet his eyes were clear, alert in a gentle way. He was brought into the reception hall where the customary exchange would take place. The abbot, occupied with other duties, asked his long-serving attendant to meet the visitor. This attendant had practiced faithfully for many years. His understanding was steady, earned through patience and time. He also carried a visible difference. Years earlier, an accident had cost him one eye. Though he lived with dignity, the wound, long healed, still carried quiet sensitivity. Facing one another in silence, the visiting monk proposed something unusual. "Let us exchange without words," he suggested. "Sometimes truth moves more freely that way." The attendant nodded. He agreed, and so the encounter began. The traveling monk slowly raised one finger. The attendant, without pause, raised two. The traveler then lifted 3 fingers. In response, the attendant formed a firm fist and held it between them. The visitor froze. His expression shifted. Confident calm gave way to uncertainty. Without another gesture, he bowed quickly and left the hall. Later that evening, the attendant went to report what had occurred. Before he could speak, the abbot smiled gently. "I have already met the traveler," he said. "He chose to continue his journey." "What did he say?" the attendant asked. "He was deeply impressed," the abbot replied. "He believes your understanding surpasses his own." The attendant blinked, confused. The abbot continued. The monk explained the exchange like this. He raised one finger to represent the Buddha. "You responded with 2 Buddha and Dharma together." He then showed 3 Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and you answered with a fist, revealing that all 3 are ultimately one. He realized he could not remain here with someone of such clarity. As the abbot finished, the attendant's face changed. Confusion, then disbelief, then rising anger. "That is not what happened at all," he said sharply. The abbot looked at him with care. "Tell me what you experienced." "He mocked me," the attendant said. He raised one finger to point out that I have only one eye. I answered with 2 fingers to show that I held no resentment, that he was fortunate, and I bore him no ill will. But then the attendant's voice tightened. He raised 3 fingers, reminding me that between us there are only 3 eyes. That was when I made a fist. I was ready to strike him, and he ran. The abbot said nothing for a long time. 2 men had shared the same moment, the same gestures, the same silence. Yet one had encountered a profound spiritual teaching. The other had encountered a personal insult. Neither was lying. Neither was pretending. Each had simply seen what his inner state was prepared to see. The traveler, immersed in spiritual seeking, saw symbols and truth. The attendant, touched by an old, tender wound, saw attack and defense. The same moment, 2 entirely different worlds. Tonight, as you reflect on your own encounters, the words that pleased or stung, the situations that felt kind or cruel, perhaps you can notice how much was shaped by what you carried inside. What we see depends on what we are ready to see. What we hear depends on what we are listening for. To a remarkable degree, the world we experience is the world we bring with us. May you move gently through your moments, meeting them with fresh eyes. Not through old wounds, not through expectation, but with a quiet presence that allows things to be exactly as they are. Let us conclude our journey with a story about the quiet art of moving with life, rather than struggling against it. A teaching about what becomes possible when we stop resisting the current and allow ourselves to flow with whatever surrounds us. Long ago in ancient China, during the years when Confucius traveled the land, searching for rulers willing to live in harmony, he came upon a sight that would change his understanding forever. He was walking with a small group of disciples along the edge of a river. For many miles, the water had moved, gently wide and calm its surface, reflecting sky and trees like polished glass. But as the land narrowed and the riverbed dropped, the water gathered speed. The current tightened. The sound deepened. Until at last, they stood before a waterfall of immense power. Water plunged from a high cliff, crashing into a violent pool below, throwing mist into the air and filling the valley with a thunder so constant that speech became difficult. This pool was well known, not for its beauty, though it was beautiful, but for its danger. The water churned without pause. Fish could not survive there. No human could enter and live. Travelers were warned to admire from afar and never approach. As Confucius and his students watched, one of the younger disciples suddenly cried out. There in the heart of the boiling water was a human figure, a man, tossed among the currents. At first glance, it seemed certain he was drowning. Several students rushed forward instinctively, already searching for a way to help. Confucius himself felt his breath catch, but then something unexpected became clear. The man was not fighting, he was not struggling, not flailing, not resisting. He was moving with the water, disappearing beneath the surface, reappearing moments later, turning with the whirlpools, rising and falling as though the river itself were carrying him intentionally. Time stretched. The students watched in disbelief. And then, as simply as a leaf drifting to shore, the man emerged from the calmer edge of the pool, stepped onto solid ground and began wringing water from his long white hair, as if he had merely taken a swim. Arstoile, with Confucius, hurried down to the riverbank. Up close, the man appeared entirely ordinary. No special body, no tools, no signs of extraordinary strength. Just an old man standing barefoot on the stones, completely at ease. Sir Confucius said, still shaken by what he had witnessed, I believed you must be a spirit, for no human could survive that water. But you are clearly a man like myself. Tell me, do you possess some secret method? Some hidden technique that allows you to live where others surely perish? The old man smiled gently. No method, he said. No technique. I have lived beside this river all my life. I entered it as a child when my body was no larger than a fish, and I have entered it almost every day since. What you saw, he continued, was not control of the water. It was familiarity. Confucius listened intently. But surely, he asked, there is something you do. The old man considered this carefully. When the water pulls me down, I go down with it. When it lifts me up, I rise with it. I do not argue with the river. I do not insist it behave differently. I follow its nature instead of imposing my own. He turned his eyes back toward the falling water. When I am in the river, I do not feel separate from it. And perhaps the river senses this too. And those who drowned the old man, continued softly, are fighting something. They have ideas about where they should be, what should be happening, how. The water is wrong. Their resistance creates stiffness, and stiffness is what the river breaks. I stopped resisting long ago. I do not try to control the water. I do not even try to survive it. I simply move with it. And somehow, he said with a quiet smile, it always brings me home. Confucius stood in silence. All his teachings about order, effort, proper conduct rested on shaping the world through intention. Yet here stood a man who survived not through force, but through yielding. Could this way, Confucius asked slowly, apply to life itself, to change lost fortune and misfortune? The old man shrugged gently. I only know this river, he said, but life seems to move much the same way. It flows. We can resist it, or we can move with it. Those who resist grow tired. Those who yield are carried. And tonight, as you release the weight of the day, perhaps you can practice this wisdom. You do not need to fix anything. You do not need to struggle. Let the current hold you. Let the breath move as it wishes. Let thoughts come and go. Stop swimming upstream. Simply allow yourself to drift into rest. The same forces that frighten the rigid carry the relaxed safely home. And so our journey together draws softly toward its close. Take a moment now to notice what has settled over you during these quiet hours, the stillness that has gathered, the softness that has spread through your body, the gentle spaciousness that has opened in your mind. This profound calm is not something we have created together. It is something that has been uncovered, a peace that was always present beneath the surface activity of daily life, waiting only for the conditions that would allow it to be felt. The stories we have shared tonight were not merely words to fill the silence. They were invitations, doorways into your own deepest understanding. Each teaching pointed toward what you already know, what you have always known beneath the noise of thinking and the weight of worry. True peace does not come from solving all problems or arranging life according to preference. It comes from recognizing what remains constant beneath all change, the awareness that witnesses everything while being disturbed by nothing. This wisdom is not something you need to hold on to or remember perfectly. It has planted itself within you like seeds in fertile ground. Even when the noise of the world returns tomorrow, even when the mind begins its familiar churning, this foundation of calm remains accessible. You have touched it tonight, and you can always return. Now, as you prepare for deep and restorative rest, allow this feeling of groundedness to anchor you completely. There is nothing left to figure out, nothing remaining to solve. There is only the gentle weight of your body, the soft rhythm of your breath, and the vast, quiet presence that holds it all. You are safe. You are whole. You are home. Thank you for joining us on this journey at the long night. May your sleep be deep, your dreams be peaceful, and your waking be gentle. Rest now. Rest well.